A daycare mom has been messaging my husband late at night. Despite suggesting a group chat, she continued private messages. So, our little 1-year-old boy has made a friend at daycare. We've been hanging out with this friend's parents, doing playdates and stuff. My husband usually chats with the mom when he drops off our kid, which is fine by me. The mom and I also chat on Messenger sometimes, but she's been sending private messages to my husband too. What I've seen is that she sends him lots of messages all day long. She talks about the kids, setting up playdates, and other random stuff like what TV shows she's watching. The thing is, she sends these messages really late at night, like 11:30 p.m. or even later. We only met these parents a few weeks ago, and I told my husband I think it's not okay for her to message him that late. He doesn't get why it's a problem because he thinks we're all friends now. I tried to explain that it's not about me being jealous, it's about respect. I don't send private messages to her husband because I don't need to and it might look bad. I trust my husband and I know he's not trying to do anything wrong, but I feel like this is how things can accidentally get messy. Since we don't know this couple very well yet, I'm not comfortable with these late-night private messages or her messaging him at all right now. I didn't tell him to stop talking to her or say anything to her, but I suggested that maybe we should just have a group chat instead of these private messages. That way, there won't be any questions. Do you think I'm being unreasonable? Update. Few months later. So, in the last few months, this daycare mom keeps trying to push the limits. She was going to an event and was supposed to carpool, but her ride fell through. Guess who she called to give her a lift? My husband. My husband told me about it right away, but the daycare mom has never mentioned that he gave her a ride. She kept on texting my husband at night about silly stuff, what the kids did at school, pictures of the kids, what she's watching on Netflix, asking for advice about buying a new car, and so on. We've had quite a few playdates with her, her husband, and the kids. She and I have been talking more too. We did start a group chat, but she still keeps messaging me and my husband separately about all sorts of things. At one of the playdates, we mentioned that my husband and one of our kids go to a certain place for breakfast at a specific time. Well, wouldn't you know it, she just happened to show up there with her kid and had breakfast too. This daycare mom is also really pushy about wanting to have playdates and hang out with us. We could have a playdate on a Friday, and she'd want to hang out with us on Saturday and Sunday too. It's really tiring and just weird because sometimes she won't take no for an answer. My husband was getting annoyed with all the invites and started saying no more often because we just had a lot of things to do. Recently, the daycare mom told me about her relationship with her husband. She said it wasn't going well and that she was planning to move out soon. Before this, she had mentioned that she was annoyed with her husband because he didn't notice things and she had to do everything. She even sent me some very private screenshots of messages between them where they were talking about their relationship. I was really grossed out that she sent messages like that from her husband, and when I showed my husband, he was just as annoyed because it puts us in a weird spot. She didn't straight out tell my husband about her marriage problems, but she hinted at them. Then she asked him in a private message if he knew any good places for breakfast because she was going to be eating alone in the morning. Keep in mind, she's lived here her whole life and we've only been here for 2 years. My husband told me about the message, and he was confused about why she would even ask him this. So I gave her some advice about her husband, and by this point, my husband had barely talked to her because we were busy and he was just annoyed. Then, would you believe it, 24 hours later she and her husband are magically back together and not breaking up anymore. After that, she suddenly stopped chatting with my husband so much for about a week. My husband and I have been totally open with each other about our messages with the daycare mom. It's become really obvious in the last few weeks that she's been using both of us, but especially my husband, as part of some plan to get her husband to notice how she's behaving. We had a playdate with them today, and at one point, I was looking after the kids with her husband. My husband told me later that she had asked him, "Why don't we talk that much anymore?" So, now my husband finally understands why I was getting so annoyed and angry about the whole situation. He didn't realize somehow that she was crossing a line, especially when it comes to unspoken rules between women. At this point, we're going to start backing away from talking to her because it seems like she enjoys stirring up drama. Thanks to everyone who responded. The advice was great, and I let my husband read all of your nice and not so nice words too.